facts matter. I want the story. I want the truth. Nathan Jessup style. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. I want the truth now. John Solomon, great story yesterday. Just the News, his new website, which is terrific. This will be in the show notes today, again, bongino.com/newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter. I'll send you these stories every day. John Solomon, April 9, 2020. Russia case footnotes to be declassified, exposing FBI concerns about Steele disinformation. Now, my next book, we have a whole chapter on this little gem. Ladies and gentlemen, we know Steele was full of stuff. You can fill in the rest if you're interested in the unfamily-friendly version of the show.
Cheese.
Yeah, cheese, right. We know Steele was full of it. I already told you that in the beginning of the show. His subsource is interviewed in January of 2017, says, I don't know what Steele's talking about. This stuff he's citing here is all garbage. Basically, you guys were investigating a hoax. We know that. But there's been kind of a sub-thread here amongst us who do this Spygate investigation and have written about it extensively. And the sub-thread has been, Joe, how much of what Steele put in the dossier about Trump, the PP tape, the Carter Page was going to be bribed by the Russians, Manafort and Cohen were arranging this thing. How much of that was outright just made up, just completely false? What percentage? And what percentage, ladies and gentlemen, may have been calculated disinformation? T.O., timeout on the field. No, Joe, okay. Paula, tell me you understand this before we go forward.
Yeah,
the dossier is false. None of it's correct. The only thing that's accurate is Carter Page went to Russia, which is you probably just got right by chance. The dossier is completely false that they used to spy on Trump. The question is not false or not false. That's answered. It's all false. The question is how much is totally, completely made up by Steele, who just fabricated it, and how much was given to him deliberately by Russians engaged in an effort to destroy the election's credibility. It is a key question that I can't, when I don't know, I don't know the percentage breakdown. 50-50, I'm not sure. We're going to get an idea, though, based on John Solomon's breaking news yesterday, which is a big story. Let's go to takeaway number 1 from his piece. I'm going to actually do this. If you read the piece, this comes after this, but it's important to get out of the way first. The guy who was running the counterintelligence section, this guy, Bill Priestep, he actually supervised Peter Strzok. You remember the guy with the text, the lead investigator. So Priestep is Strzok's boss who's investigating Trump. Strzok's doing the investigation. Priestep's his boss. When pressed by the IG about the possibility Steele had been the victim of Russian disinformation, again, what percentage, folks? Priestep offered an uncertain answer. He said, quote, I'm struggling with, when you know the Russians, and this from my intelligence community work, that they favored Trump. They're trying to denigrate Clinton, and they wanted to sow chaos. I don't know why you'd run a disinformation campaign to denigrate Trump on the side, Priestep answered. There's a lot in there. You ever hear that expression, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail? It's in that movie, World War Z. It's, pretty famous old adage. It's all over the place.
No, I don't know it.
When you're an anti-Trumper, Joe,
yeah,
everything looks suspicious when it may favor a Trump narrative. I don't want to confuse you. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. Priestep's answer is very telling. He's so convinced that the media, FBI, anti-Trump narrative, that the only way Trump won this election is because the Russians helped him. He's so convinced, Priestep, of this narrative, either because he doesn't like Trump or because people under him don't like him, Strzok, and have convinced him of this narrative, that the fact that the PP tape dossier makes Trump look bad, the fact that it could be Russian disinformation and done intentionally makes no sense to him, Joe, because he's fully sold on the narrative that the Russians helped Trump win. That's the only way he could have won. Hammer must be a nail. He has failed to remove himself from his own bubble and look at the PP tape stuff and say, hey, is this just Russian disinformation? It can't be. The Russians want Trump to win. That assumes the Russians wanted Trump to win, which is a liberal narrative, which isn't true. You may say, well, what was the Russians' motive? Well, I cover it in Spygate, my first book. The Russians' narrative was clear as day, the real story. The Russians engage, as Joe and I have talked about on this show often, in what's termed in nuclear war, mutually assured destruction. The Russians just want to sow chaos and uncertainty. Fiona Hill, who doesn't even like Trump, who testified in the impeachment hearing, the Russia specialist, even admitted it. The Russians, ladies and gentlemen, just want to sow electoral chaos. Make Trump look bad, make Clinton look bad, make the Justice Department look bad, the FBI look bad, the American citizens look bad. They don't care. They weren't in this to get Trump elected. Are you crazy? It was Hillary who hit the reset button with the Russians, not Trump. Are you crazy? But when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And when you're an anti-Trumper, everything is viewed through the prism of an anti-Trump narrative. And the anti-Trump narrative was the only way Trump got elected is because the Russians helped him. And how could the Russians help him if there was a PP tape dossier that made Trump look bad? Because it was disinformation, you dope. Did you miss that? His answer is so telling. Now, the fact that the FBI may have already had evidence this was Russian disinformation, the Steele stuff, and ignored it is even more telling because it speaks to one of only two possible solutions. Number one, the political bias was so rampant against Trump and they hated him so much that they ignored their own evidence in front of their eyes that they were being played by the Russians. Or two, they were too stupid to figure it out. There is no option three. Either politically biased against Trump or really stupid. Now, this other takeaway from the Solomon piece, this is actually before that, but I wanted to get to that first because the hammer nail, that's the whole point. So apparently these footnotes, which are about to come out, are expected to provide new data points in the timeline showing when the FBI learned or should have suspected that its key evidence suspecting Trump was colluding with Russia was erroneous and how high up those concerns were known. Who knew what and when? The new information, quote, will make clear the FBI possessed information at multiple levels that undercut the evidence it was using to sustain a collusion investigation. Whether the FBI intentionally ignored red flags or simply was blinded by ambition from seeing them clearly, one source with direct knowledge said. Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, either way, they are in a world of hurt. What the penalties will be, I don't know. I'm not touching that. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm simply telling you facts matter. I want the story. I want the truth. Nathan Jessup style. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. I want the truth now.
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.